Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to our special video. Last week I was fortunate enough to interview Craig Rogers, one of the co-founders of Deaf Crocodile, and he said as far as recommendations are concerned, people can email Deaf Crocodile and suggest films that they could maybe have a look at and try and restore. So I'm going to do a video of 20 films that I think are Deaf Crocodile-ish, or just merely I would love to see Deaf Crocodile release them. I think I had a short list of about 70, but I've whittled it down to 20, and I'll send them this link, and hopefully they'll release every single title. Well, that's not going to happen, but play along at home, and by all means email them at Deaf Crocodile on their website with any suggestions of films that you would love to see them restore and release. Now obviously some of these are on physical media, some of them aren't. Now during the discussion with Craig, Second Run did kind of come up as a similar-ish sort of title to Deaf Crocodile, not completely, but there is some crossover. So one film I would love to see Deaf Crocodile release is from Giri Weiss, who they released The Golden Fern recently, which is an absolutely wonderful film, as is this. This is Romeo, Juliet and Darkness, which I did a random review of a while ago, last year I think. This is absolutely beautiful. From 1960, a Blu-ray would really pop the black and white cinematography. This is about a young man who shelters a young Jewish girl during the occupation of Prague, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So this is certainly one for a filmmaker the Deaf Crocodile have already released films or a film from, so that's why that was added to the list. Now I like me some Czech pohádky, or fairy tale films or fantasy films, so I've got a couple here, one that I have, one that I've never seen, both by Vaclav Vorlacek. So the one that I don't have is You're a Widow, Sir, which apparently is a bit crazy, and the one that I do have is Who Wants to Kill Jessie. This comes in this beautiful collector's cardboard sleeve, and certainly the wonderful people at Deaf Crocodile who do the artwork, I'm sure, could come up with a beautiful cover for this film. This film is absolutely wonderful, from 1966. It's part comic, live action comic with speech bubbles. It's just so much fun. So Who Wants to Kill Jessie, apart from anything else, just to upgrade this collector's edition bit of cardboard. Next is a film that is actually on Blu-ray, but it's only on an Italian Blu-ray. Now, there's a film from this filmmaker that's way more famous and popular, but I don't like it as much as I love this one. It's from Giuseppe Tornatore, and it's The Legend in 1900 with Tim Roth. This is a completely preposterous film about a boy who is born on an Atlantic ship that goes from Italy to New York and back again forever, and he's a piano player. It's got arguably Ennio Morricone's best score that nobody knows about, or not a lot of people know about. It's an absolutely gorgeous score. It's about 2.5 hours long if you get the director's cut, which I urge you to watch the director's cut. So even though this is a Blu-ray, I don't believe it's got a US Blu-ray. It doesn't have a UK Blu-ray. So this is the only film on Blu-ray that I have, that I feel Deaf Crocodile would do an amazing job on. I don't think there would be any restoration work, which that might be a strike against it, but Legend of 1900 I would love to see in a special edition of Deaf Crocodile. Now Alan Clark may be the second best British filmmaker of all time, but certainly one of his oddest films, and on the surface you think it's not really an Alan Clark film, but Billy the Kid and the Green Bay's Vampire, once you get behind the snooker and vampires and the fact it's a musical, it's a completely Alan Clark film, because it's really about class, working class against the establishment, and this would be a wonderful Deaf Crocodile film, even though it is in English, the dreaded English. This has got Phil Daniels, Alan Armstrong, Bruce Payne, Don Henderson. It was a film that I hadn't seen for years, and then when I got this network DVD, I put it on and it was as if I watched it last week. It's completely daft, it's a bizarre concept, but it's absolutely wonderful, and somebody needs to release this in Blu-ray because it is just fantastic. Now a filmmaker that I do bang on about a little bit, I seem to have done an sort of unofficial director series on, is Jan Svankmajer. Obviously Deaf Crocodile do lots of wonderful animation films. There's a really exciting Russian animation set coming, but arguably my favourite Svankmajer is Faust, which I believe is only available on DVD. This is a Kino video DVD. This is from 1994. One of the best versions of Faust. It's disturbing and scary. The dialogue rhymes. It's kind of wonderful, and again it's that Svankmajer combination of live action and animation, in this case these creepy dolls. Yeah, this is absolutely fantastic. Again, a film that I'd seen years ago, and then when I watched it on this DVD, it was as if I watched it last week. So Faust by Svankmajer is a total Deaf Crocodile release, and I've thrown in Little Otic, which I just did a random review of. This is one that I hadn't seen before, and this is again a Deaf Crocodile release all over, and this is from 2000, and it might be, I think it is, Svankmajer's longest feature, 132 minutes I think. It's based on a fairy tale about a couple who are struggling to have a child, and during a kind of restoration work on a house in the country, the father digs up a root that kind of looks like a child if you look at it from a distance, and the woman kind of goes a little bit strange and starts acting like the root is a baby. Full of Svankmajer trademarks. Now, one of the best films on this list, one of my favourite films of all time, since I was introduced to it by the wonderful Mike Hodges on my Film 4 programme on Channel 4. This is Alan Rennie's My American Uncle. For me, one of the great art house films of all time that nobody talks about, from 1980. Probably the best film in 1980, and there is quite a lot of competition. I think this is a Deaf Crocodile film in spirit. It follows 3 characters, really 4 characters, because the 4th character is a behavioural psychologist who speaks to the camera directly, and we follow these 3 people through their trials and tribulations of life, and it's like a science experiment. It is a complete masterpiece. I've probably seen it about 10 times. This needs a Blu-ray by somebody. I don't know why it hasn't had a Blu-ray, because it is just an absolute masterpiece. Gerard Depardieu is one of the three characters, and there's a device that's used later in the film which is absolutely wonderful. Now obviously during the interview with Craig Rogers of Deaf Crocodile, I couldn't help myself but mention John Sayles. Even if I have to interview everybody from every boutique label, I'm going to get more John Sayles released. So maybe this is the most Deaf Crocodile of his films. This is Men with Guns, his follow-up to Lone Star, but in typical Sayles fashion, his follow-up to an Oscar nomination, he decided to do a film pretty much not in English. It's in an unnamed country in Central America, and it follows a doctor played by the wonderful Federico Lippi as he goes out into the country when he hears that one of his medical students that he sent out has been killed, and he tries to find the rest of them, and he gets his eyes opened in his own country. In typical Sayles humour, the film opens with the doctor literally having a finger up a general's bottom, which is a wonderful way to open it. It's a road movie, and he meets these characters. There's a priest who's lost his faith, there's a woman who's been treated horribly by probably both sides. There's a runaway from one of the sides, and in typical Sayles fashion, it's written beautifully, performed beautifully, and it's just one of Sayles' masterpieces. But because it's in a foreign language, I think all Sayles films need Blu-ray releases, but this one would be the most Deaf Crocodile of his films, I think. But saying that, that's not stopping me adding some more John Sayles to the list. Passion Fish, which might be his best film, and that's saying something. Again, there's something to be said for Sayles. Your favourite Sayles is the one you just watched last, but Passion Fish from 1992 is absolutely beautiful, with Mary McDonnell and Alfred Woodard and David Strathairn. It's just about a soap opera actress who gets paralysed in an accident, goes back to her home on the bayou, goes through lots of assistance until she meets Alfred Woodard, who has her own issues. Again, with a lot of Sayles films, the synopsis sounds not that interesting, but it's an absolute beautiful film. It's 130 minutes, but you want it to be 130 hours, or maybe that's just me, as you just want to spend the rest of your life with these characters, because that's what Sayles does the best. Excuse me while I go on about Sayles a little bit more. This is a DVD threesome, but I'm going to pick out Brother from Another Planet with Joe Morton playing an alien. You know, that's a quirky Deaf Crocodile release if you've ever heard of it. This is brilliant. It co-stars Sayles and Strathairn, and it's just beautiful. Joe Morton is a mute alien. It's just how people react to him and talk to him and the information they give him rather than the other way around. It's just a beautiful, funny film. But while you're at it, I mean, you could release Leanna, Return of Secaucus 7 as well. I'm not bothered. You could just do a Deaf Crocodile John Sayles 10 film box set, you know, that's... back to reality. A filmmaker that kind of blew me away a few years ago is Mikhail Kalatazov. Of course, has films in the Criterion, but some of his films aren't in the Criterion collection, including Salt for Slovenia, or Svanti. These are silent films, but they are, I think this is included with Nail in the Boot even. These are absolutely beautiful silent films, not surprisingly Kalatazov. If you've seen Cranes Are Flying or Letter Never Sent or I Am Cuba, you know visually his films are absolutely stunning. You'll have to excuse the yappy dog in the background. These are both not necessarily feature length, I think they're both quite short, but they're absolutely beautiful, and it would be great to see more Kalatazov on Blu-ray. And then next, obviously I'm a big Satyajit Ray fan. I think we discussed Indian cinema in the interview with Craig Rogers of Deaf Crocodile, and how, with the exception of Satyajit Ray, India's a blind spot for me as well. But I'm going to pick a film from this DVD set of Satyajit Ray Volume 2, and it's Joy Baba Phalunath, which is the elephant god. And this is a little bit different from your standard Rai films, because this is a detective film. It's in colour, really beautiful colour, greens and reds. It does star Sumitra Chatterjee, Rai's De Niro, if you like. And this is a fun detective story, which Rai actually wrote the book. I'm assuming he read the book as well. Yeah, this is a fun film, colourful, so I think this would be the most Deaf Crocodile of Ray's filmography. And then we get films that I've just got on disc, not even deluxe cardboard sleeves. So the first one is Mr. Death, The Rise and Fall of Fred Luchter Jr. by Errol Morris. So this is a absolutely wonderful, heartbreaking, dark, depressing documentary about a guy whose job it is to make sure executions are as least painful as possible. His father was an executioner, and he was involved in kind of inventing lethal injection, or helping invent lethal injection. So you think, oh, this is a really interesting film about executions and how to make them a little bit more humane. But then the story changes as he is hired by these Holocaust deniers to go over to Auschwitz and do tests to prove that the gas chambers never existed. And this guy who, you know, testing rock samples is not his expertise, but he kind of did it anyway. And then it turns out how he did it was never gonna produce the results. So he then goes, oh yeah, the Holocaust never existed because the gas chambers never existed. And the thing is, you do feel for him because he was used, but of course it completely ruined his life, not surprisingly. But he was to blame for some aspects, just because it was out of hubris and out of, you know, the opportunity to look important. And it's just an absolutely wonderful, fascinating documentary, and it's certainly strange enough to be on Deaf Crocodile. Next to the film that I absolutely adore, that really needs a Blu-ray, but I don't think it'll ever happen because it's owned by HBO in the early days of HBO. It's Citizen X, which is about the hunt for Chikatilo, the first Russian serial killer, or the most famous Russian serial killer. Now you have to take a leap of faith. It's got Donald Sutherland and Stephen Ray and Joss Ackland playing Russians. Joss Ackland with a wonderful subtle performance. Maxwell Sydow's in it. It's absolutely wonderful, but that obviously is people not speaking Russian, obviously. But it's an absolutely wonderful film, but it's a film we'll probably never see on Blu-ray. But I wish we could, because it's absolutely fantastic. It's a TV movie, so I don't know what rights the HBO have for those kind of things, or just there's not a wish for it, but it's just an absolutely wonderful film. Next is a film from Spain. Strangely enough, also co-starring Max von Sydow. It's Intacto. And this is a film about luck. Is luck actually a force that can be harnessed and controlled? It's a thriller, and it's kind of wonderful. It's wonderfully obscure. There's things like Russian roulette in it, and executions, but at its core it is about luck. Can it be harnessed? Can it be controlled? Is there such a thing as the luckiest person alive? And it's just a wonderful little film. Now, as you can see, there's a few of these films that are handmade, shall we say. So this one is The Most Terrible Time of My Life. As you can see, this is on a collector's edition burned DVD disc. This is from Hishashi, who actually had a couple on the shortlist. But this stars the guy from Midnight Train. Not Midnight Train. The Jim Jarmusch film. It's wonderful again. It's that mix of fantasy and reality. It's got the private eye aesthetic, and it's just absolutely wonderful, but pretty hard to get. I think there is a DVD, but it's long out of print and it's very expensive if you can track it down. So The Most Terrible Time of My Life would be a wonderful addition to the Deaf Crocodile catalogue. I know they haven't released anything from Japan, but I think there is Asian titles potentially in the works. Next is a lovely little indie US film, portmanteau film, an anthology film, and it's Grim Prairie Tales, with Brad Dourif and James Earl Jones as two strangers that meet in the middle of nowhere in the dark and tell scary stories to each other. As you can see, this is a German DVD. I don't think it's got a US release, I could be wrong. And again, it's strange and weird and fun, and that sounds like Deaf Crocodile to me. And then back to Saijit Ray for again a wonderful deluxe edition burned disc, and this is Days and Nights in the Forest, not from 1955 as I originally wrote, from 1970. This is another beautiful Ray film. This one's black and white, and it's just about three friends who go for a weekend break in the country, and their mishaps and adventures. Again, it's a very relaxed film. There's not as much rigid structure. It's just absolutely beautiful. So perhaps, not perhaps your typical Deaf Crocodile film, but somebody needs to release it. I mean, somebody needs to, well, for a start, find all these Ray films that don't have releases at all. But to upgrade, I know Criterion have certainly upgraded a few, the big hits if you like, but there's so many more. And finally, a filmmaker that we discussed when I talked to Craig Rogers, and a filmmaker that just blew me away when I saw his films through Deaf Crocodile, and that's Alexander Puchko, the Russian Disney. And this is The Golden Key, which again is just on a random DVD from Sinister Cinema. This is short, this is a bit like Pinocchio, wonderful animation. It's not as highly rated as some of Puchko's other films, but I absolutely loved it. But maybe I'm just that way inclined. But again, just on DVD, I think that might be a DVD R. So not an official release, but we need more Puchko. Once you've had the Puchko itch, you've got to scratch that Puchko itch. And the Golden Key would be another wonderful addition to the Deaf Crocodile canon. So thanks so much for watching. Please let me know which one of these films do you think is a Deaf Crocodile film, because again that was one of the questions I asked Craig Rogers, co-founder of Deaf Crocodile, what is a Deaf Crocodile film. But please go to their website, give them your suggestions, and you never know, you might get one of your films restored by Deaf Crocodile, because he did say, I think one of their upcoming releases was a viewer recommendation, basically, that he and Dennis Bartok ended up liking, or they knew of it and they both liked it, so it's getting released. So you never know, you might see Who Killed Jesse or Intacto or fingers crossed Men with Guns being released by Deaf Crocodile, and what a wonderful world that would be. So thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate the support, and I do appreciate the positive feedback on the Craig Rogers interview. Go to the Deaf Crocodile website and support them. They've got great merch as well, and hopefully you'll join me again for more videos. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.